Hey guys, welcome to the Cast and Spear Podcast. My name is John, and today is the final episode with our main man, Ted Harty from Immersion Freediving. Welcome back to the show, Ted.
Thanks for having me on.
Today we're going to cover 2 mistakes every spear fisherman and women make while equalizing. So tell me, how can we make sure that our equalization is top notch?
So this is one of the things that I see in almost every single student that I see, whether they're experienced spear fisherman, brand new spear fisherman, freediver, whatever. I mean, I see every student make these mistakes. This is one of the probably easiest things that you can do to make an increase in your performance. One of my last podcast episodes I did was 3 things that any spear fisher can do to increase their performance. And I thought really carefully about what were the 3 things. And this was, I think, the number 1 reason. So this has to do with something that's called streamlining, right? So streamlining has to do with how much water you're pushing when you go down to depth. Now, water is 800 times denser than air. So it makes a huge difference when you compare that to, let's say, like aerodynamics, right? So if I'm in my truck going down the highway, I can go in the truck 80 miles an hour down the highway. I can roll the window down. I can easily move my hand up through the air. Yet if I jump in the pool and I try to push my hand across the pool, there's more resistance in the pool than when I'm in the truck doing 80 miles an hour. And again, that's aerodynamics versus hydrodynamics. Look at NASCAR. Look at how much work they put into, making the thing super, aerodynamic and the drafting and all that sort of stuff, right? So if it's a free diver, it's a spear fisherman, if you can be more streamlined, push less water when you go down to depth, that will immediately improve your performance because it'll make the dive easier. So the one thing that I see almost all students do is they don't think about streamlining and they don't think about their equalizing elbow. But as soon as I say equalizing elbow, you're like, what the heck is my equalizing elbow? Exactly, right? You've never even thought about this thing, right? So pinch your nose right now and equalize your ears. Now, when I do that, I can almost guarantee you I'm doing it incredibly differently than you are. Because when I'm doing it, the inside of my elbow is on my stomach, right? The average student, especially beginners, will have their elbow at a 90-degree angle, like they're trying to hold a dinner plate on their elbow, right? So when I do it, my elbow's tucked in because I want to push the least amount of water. Why? Because I'm lazy. I want to do the least amount of work, right? So if I can push less water, it's going to make it better, right? Yet almost everyone I see, beginners, will have their elbow out at a 90-degree angle, which pushes the most amount of water, which makes it is the worst way to put that elbow, right? Now, most people, beginners, I'll see absolutely do 90%, right? But maybe if you're experienced, right, I don't expect to see it at 90, but I do expect to always see it at 45 degree, right? I have never in 12 years of teaching ever seen a student go down with that elbow on the inside of their stomach like I'm talking about. I never, 12 years, never seen that, right? So that makes me assume that you probably don't do that either, right? So it's a matter of how much water do you want to push? How much more difficult do you want to make the dives to be? I mean, if you're like, hey, Ted, these 80, 100-foot dives are really simple. I'd like them to be a little more challenging. You have to stick your elbow out and it'll be more challenging just like you want. So my suggestion is think about the next time that you go diving, when you go to pinch the nose, you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to put your equalizing elbow somewhere, stick it on your stomach and make your dives easier. Now, when it comes to the equalizing, the other mistake I see, and this one drives me crazy, and I see it in students, I see it on the spearfishing videos, and it goes like this. They pinch their nose because they have to equalize. And then as soon as they pinch their nose, they take their hand off their nose and they put it over their head and they go kick, 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 and they go, my ear hurts. And they bring their hand back down and then they equalize. And they go kick, kick, kick. Now maybe they put their hand down by their side and they go kick, 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 and they go, ow, my ear hurts. How surprising. And they go put the ear back of the nose equalize. And so I call it the hand dance, right? The hand is constantly in motion, right? And I'm like, are you guys trying to burn extra calories? Like, why do you move the hand all over the place? You're going to have to equalize your ear. So why not just keep it there, right? So the thing is, keep your hand over the nose pocket, but don't keep the nose pinched the whole way. If you keep the nose pinched the whole way, you can't equalize your mask and you get mask squeeze. So the trick that I tell my students is keep your hand on the nose pocket and then just squeeze it the second you need to equalize and stop moving your hand all over the place. Just keep it on there, right? So those are 2 tips that most people can absolutely make improvement on, and they're easy to do, right? If I were to try to convince you over a podcast to kick more efficiently, I can't really do that via a podcast, but these things, you can listen to this And you can remember, right, what did that guy on the podcast say? He said, tuck the elbow in and then don't move my hand. You could easily, anyone listening to that could do that and make improvement on their next trip.
Well, I'm guilty of the 45-degree angle. I didn't even think about that.
No one does because this is all, I say it all the time. Competitive freediving is not the same as spearfishermen, but competitive freedivers, we're trying to dive deeper than anyone on the planet. Like we're so focused on that and we know how to do that, right? We're so focused on streamlining all these things, right? And spearfishermen are focused on 1,000 other things. They're not focused on the technical side of freediving like competitive freedivers are doing. So I'm always trying to convince spearfishermen that there's a lot that you should learn and steal from the competitive freedivers, right? We know how to dive super deep. We know how to dive a long time. We know how to be efficient. We know how to train. So there's just stuff that most people don't think about. Spearfishers have too many other things to think about. They're trying to stalk the fish, how to approach the fish, and all these other things, and the streamlining ain't one of them.
I guess that leads me to one other question is, I hear it all the time when a spearfisherman goes down, they kind of keep their head up because they're like, hey, the fish, you got to be looking for the fish. But then that kind of puts, your neck in a weird position. You're not really looking like a torpedo. You're looking more like a banana. How do you get people to, like, what should the spearos be thinking about? It's like, hey, keep your chin tucked, know like where the ground is going, and then, get to the bottom first and then figure out hunting. Or what do you say about that?
Yeah. So actually there is a reason that in that podcast that I mentioned, I said the 3 easiest things to do. Because I had so many people say, Ted, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't know about head position. What's wrong with you? Didn't you know about head position? I'm like, yeah, I'm aware of that. But it's harder to convince people of that, right? Because it's so, for the folks listening, almost any freediving class will tell you day one, don't look where you're going. So if you're in the pool and you're doing an entry, you're practicing going to the bottom of the pool, you should not see the bottom of the pool. If you're spearfishing, that means you're going down, you shouldn't be seeing the bottom. But every spearfisherman is going to, of course, look where they're going because they're trying to track the fish and look at all that stuff, right? So it's very hard to break that habit. The reason freediving instructors say don't do that is, number one, it puts you at much greater risk for having lung squeeze and tracheal squeeze. It's the number one thing that will cause that. And those sound bad and they are bad. You don't want them somewhat coughing up, spitting up blood. And once you get one, you get them more frequently is really, really bad. You really want to avoid that. Now, when I start talking to spearfishermen, and that also makes you way less it makes you so much more streamlined when you don't look where you're going. But it's hard to convince people to not do that. So here's what I explain how to do it. Is if you're hunting in a wreck at 60 feet, you're probably not spotting the fish from the surface and then going straight down on it. Like you probably don't have much visibility and you probably can't see it. But most people aren't doing that. So my point is let's do a dive in the beginning, have good head position so we're super streamlined. We're not looking where we're going. Your head's in what I call neutral position. Like if you're sitting on the couch watching TV, that's what neutral position is, right? Your eyes are looking straight in front of you. So as a freediving instructor, I of course have to look at my students. I have to see what they're doing. So the way I do it is I go down in neutral position, the way I should be, not with my head cranked looking at the bottom. And if I need to take a peek at a student, all I do is I just tilt my back backwards. I just rotate my back, and I can now, like I'm sitting in a chair right now, I'm looking at John, and if I just keep my head in that position, look back, I can see the ceiling, right? And I didn't twist or rotate my neck at all. So what you can do is take a couple of peeks, and then when you get 15 foot off the wreck, then you can level out and start your hunt, right? So it's a hard one to get people to change their mind. It can be done, but just understand, you can really mess yourself up with these lung and tracheal squeezes. And the number one cause of those is by looking where you're going.
I'm going to have to go work on my thoracic mobility for that whole back one. I like that though.
Yeah. But if it allows you, because I've had situations as a freediving instructor, I've had, I feel like I've got all these injuries and I'm like, but I've got these classes to do. What can I do to minimize my risk? And that's the one thing, if I feel like anything's not right, I'm only doing that. And that just became like the way I do everything now, right? I'm never going to go like that. I'm just going to go like that. I still do the same thing. And I don't put myself at the risk of the squeeze.
Well, Ted, this week has been super, super awesome and informative. How can people reach out to you?
So yeah, the best thing, they can find me on social media. The podcast Freedive Live, which I do, you can check it out there. And then there'll also be some links in the show notes to some of the online courses I have, because I've got tons of online courses. I've got courses on equalizing. I've got some free courses on safety and how to increase your breath hold. I've got the training program. So I've got a lot of stuff, and you can definitely check all that out in the show notes. One thing I'm excited to tell you guys about is a Freediving Summit that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be interviewing probably around 20 to 25 freedivers and spearfishermen, as well as individuals from all the freediving agencies. So the way it works is I'm really excited to get the different agencies involved, PADI, NAUI, SSI, ADA, all that sort of stuff, where I can ask them like, hey, they're all gonna get the questions in advance, they'll all get the same questions, but allow the agencies to, in essence, speak for themselves. Like if you're a freediver, if you're thinking about, picking a class, why should you pick ADA? Why should you pick PFI? Why should you pick PADI? So they'll be a good resource. I've also got lots of spearfishermen that I'll be interviewing. And I'll also be asking every single one of the spearfishermen a question that I think is pretty common is, how can you get better at approaching fish? So if you want to learn how these top spearfishermen say they can approach fish, you can tune in. It's going to be launched. The interviews will be on July 12th, 13th, and 14th. And it's free to register, and you can take a look at the program at freediving-summit.com. So it's freediving, the dash in the middle, freedivingsummit.com, and there'll be a link to that in the show notes.